Welcome to the August 20th, 2018 meeting of the Coeur d'Alene Parks and Recreation Commission. Melissa, let's get started with roll call.
Commissioner Cranston.
Here.
Commissioner McDowell. Commissioner Lean.
Here.
Commissioner Tate. Commissioner Hill. Commissioner Wood. Commissioner Edinger.
Here.
Thank you, Melissa. Would everybody please stand and join me in the Pledge of Allegiance? I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Thank you. We knew we were going to have a couple of commissioners absent tonight, and we were waiting for the arrival of one more to constitute an official quorum for any formal recommendations to general services. So we're going to go ahead and proceed ahead today, and we're going to go ahead and go through the staff report and have Bill present the two agenda items or action items we have tonight. We'll go ahead and have discussion. And then if no quorum has presented itself by then those items will be forwarded directly to general services. So with that, do any of the members here tonight have a conflict of interest within the agenda items tonight?
No.
Okay. There are none. We're going to go ahead and table the approval of meetings for our June 18th meeting then to our next regular meeting, Bill and Melissa. Okay, let's go to staff report, Bill.
Well, we've got a few things to catch up on. We did open up the Memorial Park area over by the new skate park that's being built. That skate park will be completed at the end of September, and we're going to have a grand opening on October 6th there at the site. The restrooms at that area are not completed, in that the flat work around the building won't be done for a couple more weeks. So we have some porta potties that are placed. The pickleball nets are up, the futsal court is in place, and the playground's open. We have another art piece that'll be going in between the pickleball courts and the playground. Jason Sanchez has got a piece that's going in there. We have our parks master plan. We're updating our master plan. It's 10 years old. And so we were at Taste of Coeur d'Alene's, and we've been at a couple of concerts here on Sundays and Thursdays, and we now have some online registration for those surveys that people can look at and just go on our website and take a look and fill out the survey. We've had about a couple hundred online surveys already filled out, and just as many in person when people came and visit our booth where we're at those places I just named. We are working on a permit for the bank stabilization there along where the Atlas Mill site is, and we're going to have some improvements in that vicinity. So some open space, the trail goes through there, but we took a little boat ride, I don't know, 6 weeks ago, and we're looking at the shoreline stabilization that needs to take place, but we're working towards that next. The permit is coming up soon, but we're just making the application to get the permit at this point. And we have a new art piece at Riverstone. It's a really cool piece. It's called Undercurrent, and it's some salmon or trout that are like stainless steel and are about 3 feet long. And the idea is the fish are on a kind of a wavy looking pole, and above them is there another piece of steel that simulates the top of the water, so the fish are swimming through the undercurrent. But it's a really nice piece. Our crew helped the artist today backfilling. He has some finishing touches to go on this week, and it should be completed by the end of this week. So, great. On the recreation side of business, our softball, we just completed some of our softball programs with 120 teams participating. We are preparing for our fall season next week with 32 teams already registered. Baseball and softball youth, our programs wrapped up 2 weeks ago. We had 350 participants in that. Swim lessons continue to be a popular program, with the current session having 125 children. We just concluded our fall soccer registration and received a larger than normal turnout, roughly 600 kids. So there was a bunch of people for that.
Do you have okay managing the demand for fields with the current number of soccer registrants?
We're doing okay. It's tight, but we're getting by.
Do you see that kind of being a trend that'll kind of continue for numbers?
I think so. I think I just, it's really popular, and so I don't know why the numbers were up this much more, but we had quite the line going out the door.
So it's probably a discussion we should have here in the near future of multi-purpose fields that would help accommodate it then.
Well, in fact, Paula Austin, our recreation superintendent, she and I were talking about that today in regards to the master plan and what our needs are, and that was one of the things that we identified.
Okay.
So just what you said was sort of a multi-use sort of field that we could use for numerous sports rather than just singular.
Okay.
And this is this is a very cool thing. This is a national publication it's the Tree City USA Bulletin. It's a national publication. Katie, our urban forester, Katie Kosenki, if you recall, she worked with NIC, and they were recognized in this publication for their efforts in creating what is the only second campus in the state to have this honor. And so with Katie's tutelage and the stuff that we've been doing for so many years with Tree City USA, she had that roadmap pretty well charted and helped them get through that, and they were awarded this. And on Arbor Day, I think some of you may have been there, we had the opening ceremony there this year instead of one of our parks. So kudos to them for getting this done. Kudos to Katie for working along with NIC. And then they had a situation here back just before the 4th of July. We had been contacted by some folks about an osprey that seemed to be injured. So and I'm going to show you a little video about that. And there's a little bit of follow-up to that video that happened just last week. So with that, we got about a 5-minute little video about this osprey.
Before we launch the video, can we go back a minute to the
Yes.
Parks Master Plan?
Yes, sir.
What's the kind of the process and time frame you see moving forward to be able to get it updated?
We're gathering data now and throughout the rest of the summer. And so we're going to sit down this winter and look at the items that we've accomplished and get the feedback from the community about what we need to update. And so we're hoping to bring that back to you sometime late spring next year. That's our hope. So we're doing it all in-house. So Mike Kempton, myself, and Monty McCulley are working through that. And when we get a little time this winter between picking up snow, we'll be working on that.
Well, I think it would be good too, just so that we're kind of involving a public process with it, maybe plan to have periodic updates at our regular
Yes.
meetings to kind of see where we are in the process.
Absolutely. We can do that for you throughout this winter and spring.
Okay. Anything else for Bill?
Sounds great.
Thank you, Bill.
Okay.
In early July, an osprey hatchling was observed struggling in its nest. It seemed to be unable to move, entangled in what was believed to be monofilament fishing line. The City of Coeur d'Alene's Parks Department decided to mount an exploratory effort to see if there was anything that could be done to help the struggling osprey.
We were contacted by some citizens who observed from our cameras that one of the birds seemed to be struggling in some way. And so they reached out to us and gave us Janny's name and number. And so I contacted her, and she came over to look at our video feed, which is a little clearer, so she could see what was going on. That was on the 3rd of July. The 4th of July was obviously a holiday, and then on the 5th of July, Janny contacted me again and said, I'm a little concerned about the little guy. And so we made some calls, and I contacted Thorco, and Tom Klein with Thorco contacted me via phone and said, we're in, we'll be right there. And so We coordinated that day and did the initial rescue on that day.
After removing the fishing line from the young osprey and taking steps to hydrate the hatchling, it was determined that it needed some additional care to improve its health prior to being returned to the nest. Raptor biologist Janie Veldkamp of Birds of Prey took the chick to their facility for some healing and recuperation. Veldkamp explained what that process entailed.
Well, that leg had to heal up. It was badly entangled in monofilament or fishing line, as you recall, and it actually cut into the bird's leg all the way around the circumference of the leg. So we wanted to make sure he had good nerve function and muscular function to the foot, and that wound healed up. And it took about 12 days to do so. And he's a good bit smaller, and remember, the males are always smaller anyway in the bird of prey world. The females are always larger, so that's normal.
She went on to share that there's a finite window that they were working under to get the young raptor healthy.
They get their vision beginning at about 3.5 weeks, and it becomes more developed as the days progress, starting at about 4 weeks. So that's why it's critical not to hand feed a young raptor. You don't want it imprinting on humans, thinking food comes from humans. And so you can get away with feeding them a bit till they get their vision. Then at about 4 weeks, you need to find a puppet or stay out of the way when you feed them.
On July 20th, the city of Coeur d'Alene and Veldkamp decided that it was time to return the young male, now named Little McEwen, back to the nest.
I got a call from Janie this Monday that little McEwen is doing well and would like to reintroduce him into the nest. So I reached out to Thorco one more time, and they said, we're in again, we want to help.
Joined by retired Idaho Fish and Game biologist Wayne Melquist, who now, as part of the team, will take the opportunity to band Little McEwen and his two sisters so their lives may be tracked and chronicled.
What it tells us is where these birds are migrating to, where they're wintering. We've gotten a little over 100 returns, band returns, and that information suggests they're wintering in west central Mexico and Central America.
It was decided, due to high winds and the fear that the sisters may get alarmed and attempt to fly out of the nest, that Melquist would remove the remaining chicks from the nest and perform the banding on the ground. This gave an opportunity for a number of folks, young and old, that were visiting McEwen Park that day to see an osprey in the wild up close. Very up close.
So we've had birds that we banded and they're back here, and we see quite a few banded birds, and there probably are. So they have a high degree of attraction to the area in which they were hatched and fledged. Females will venture out a little further away from the area in which they were fledged from than males, but there is a high degree of fidelity for the area in which they were hatched. Now they obviously are going to come right back to it. They may be down at the other end of the lake, or they may be at some adjacent lake. Could be anywhere, could be on Lake Pend Oreille.
If you see or find a banded bird, Melquist urges you to report it by calling the number on the band or contacting Idaho Fish and Game via the internet.
You can go to the bird banding laboratory, just Google U.S. Fish and Wildlife Service bird banding lab. And what they'll do is they'll send you a little certificate if you want. So say, here's the bird, and tell you a little bit about where the bird's from.
With the banding complete, Veldkamp headed up to return the two sisters and Little McEwen back to the nest. On the way up, there was more fishing line discovered.
We had some remaining monofilament that we couldn't see because we weren't on that corner of the nest last time. So as soon as we came up over the nest, I saw the monofilament there entangled, and Nick was able to get all of it out today.
With a successful return and reintroduction, Mom came back to check on the chicks. It looks like a safe return for Little McEwen. However, there are some continuing concerns.
As the nest watchers watch the cam, we're looking to make sure the youngster gets shaded by Mom, takes the food that Mom offers, and that there's not any sibling rivalry between the bigger females and the younger male. So that's what we'll be looking for.
The City of Coeur d'Alene is grateful for this successful team effort.
Just want to tell everybody thanks. I mean, this team here sitting in our office is actually just wonderful. I mean, I just had no idea they were out there. It was nice that the folks that were the Osprey watchers let me know that they're there. It's a wonderful, wonderful thing you've done, and I just thank everybody for it.
On August 1st, with little McEwen fully introduced back into the family, one of the sisters decided it was time to fledge. At approximately 7:45 a.m., she took her inaugural flight.
Well, Bill, that was great.
Yeah.
Very informative.
So the follow-up story to that was that last week, Janie received a call from somebody that was patrolling our park, one of the officers, and they said they had found another osprey down on the ground. So our staff went out to go look for him, and they found an osprey just east of the dog park in a swale drinking water. So they captured it and put it in a box and put it in my office. So stayed with me for a couple hours until Janie and her husband were able to come and take a look. So I was looking at the bird, and I kept thinking it's one of our birds, one of our 3 banded birds. And so I opened the box up a little bit more so I could get a better look at him, and there was no band on it. And so if you look just above the dog park on Tubbs Hill, there's a nest in a tree that's kind of leaning quite a bit. So our suspicion is this bird fell out of that nest, and then fortunately it was a female. She was close to water, which is a swale, so when our staff found her, she was gobbling up water. She hadn't been eaten for a while, so she was a little skinny. But I heard from Janie over the weekend that she's taken food and she's on the road to recovery. So she will then, once she nurses that animal back to health, she'll find a nest and reintroduce them to a nest. So
Great.
That's the osprey story.
That's great, Bill. Thank you. Do any of the commissioners here have any comments or announcements? No. Nope. Okay. Then next up would be an opportunity for public comments. Is there anyone in our audience that's would like to address the commission that is not already here for a agenda item? No? Okay. That brings us to our first action item, Bill, and that is the memorial grandstands. I'll go ahead and read the staff report, then I'll let you go ahead and kind of add to that, and then we'll have discussion. Should the Parks and Recreation Commission recommend to the City Council that funding from the Parks Capital Improvement Fund be allocated to assist with the remodeling costs of the Memorial Field grandstands? The current grandstand was completed in 1947. Over the last 70-plus years, countless ball games have been played at the field and is now recognized as an iconic feature in our community. It hosted the Scottish Tattoo from 1957 to the late 1970s. In 1991, the movie Talent for the Game was filmed at the field. The Coeur d'Alene Recreation Department uses the field for our spring and fall leagues, and it is the home field for NIC's ladies softball team. Ignite has committed the funding for the base bid of $1,195,737. This amount includes a contribution of $150,000 from North Idaho College. Within the project, there were identified additional alternates that are recommended items which would give the structure better longevity. The total cost for those items is $273,763. Ignite has agreed to partner with the city to fund 50% of these costs, and therefore, the city's portion from Parks Capital Improvement Fund would be $136,881.50. The add alternates include public restrooms, an improved concessions area, locker rooms, storage, and a plaza seating area. Structural upgrades will ensure that this historic structure will be here for future generations to enjoy. Again, should the Parks and Recreation Commission recommend to City Council that funding in the amount of $136,881.50 from the Parks Capital Improvement Fund be allocated to assist with the remodeling cost of the Memorial Field grandstands. So, Bill, what do you have to add?
So, as you recall, John Mueller and Steve Roth made a presentation to you a couple meetings back, and they talked about these add alternates. If you recall, there were some slides in that had to do with what was required and what was recommended. These add alternates are those recommended items, as it said in the staff report, to allow this structure to be here for a lot longer. One of the upgrades was a gutter system to take all of the rainwater away from the field. The other was to upgrade some structural stuff in the roof line. We're going to reuse the tin that's there, but we need to put some material underneath that. The other item was to shot over the top of the existing seating area and steps with a material so that it's, again, right now, those boards, I've gone in there personally and replaced those. They're kind of soft in some spots. So in order to make that more stable, we'd like to do that. And the other item was there were some stairs. As you walked in those stairs, those steps are off camber a little bit in that they're not the size they need to be, and distances are not consistent. So they're a little bit difficult to walk the stairs. So we believe that, well, I believe, it's up to you whether you believe it or not, I believe that this is a good expenditure for our funds to help this project along.
So just to list these alternates, I'll kind of go over the list of the sheet I have. And my understanding that the first item was probably the highest priority, and that would have been the additional structural upgrades.
That's correct.
To the building.
Yep.
The new bleacher steps you just mentioned. Relocating the field lights to the roof. Do you want to clarify that one? It's
Sure.
not all the lights,
So
is it?
along first base, there are two poles that are in the play field. And so we, with these structural upgrades, we'll be able to hang the lighting on top of the roof. And so we can get the poles out of the field of play.
And those were original poles that weren't replaced.
Correct.
For the park development, is
Right,
that
and that's
right?
why they're kind of in a way, because we adjusted and rotated the field, and that's where they lie. And so before, they were not in the playing field.
And that can be done so that it won't impact the quality of
Correct.
field lighting.
Correct. They'll go right up where they are, and we can target them as necessary, so.
Okay. Item 4 was gutters and the storm
Yes. so
system,
that would-
collection system you mentioned.
Right, so that's some dry wells and catch basins to pull that away from the grandstands.
Okay. Plywood subfloor and floor finish, that would be in the grandstands seating
Correct.
area.
That's the one I was mentioning.
Item 6 was scoring platform. Can you elaborate on that one a little bit?
Well, that might be pulled out in that if we can afford it, we can do it. If it could be a project for NIC, and all that is an area up behind where the dugout was or is, just maybe 7 or 8 rows up for a score table or booth to
Okay.
be there so they can watch the game, score, and announce the game.
Okay, and that is within the grandstand seating
That's correct.
area.
So it's just a spot that would notch out and remove some of the benches there to create a level surface for them to seat at.
Item 7, stainless steel toilets and lavs. Now, this is an upgrade from the porcelain.
Correct. We
Fixtures?
had some, I guess people, we've had some problems when people were, I guess, their game didn't go as well and they were a little frustrated, and they've taken a bat to porcelain before. And so I thought it might not be a bad upgrade to do.
So this is just kind of a good maintenance upgrade that
Correct.
relieves a lot of staff misery.
Correct.
Item 8, then, this would be the last of these alternate items, and that would be cedar siding upgrade. Now, is that re-siding that,
Correct.
the whole thing with new material?
Correct. And the cedar is, as you may know, as an architect yourself, it's more durable than the fir, And so we thought we could do that. Even though we're going to do a heavy-bodied penetrating stain, we just thought we would get better longevity by using the cedar.
So it'll have the same kind of a horizontal
Correct.
pattern to it like we see now. Okay. Ron or Jim, do you have any other?
Well, you've discussed these for us before, Bill, and it all makes a lot of sense. I do notice that we had talked about, and it looks like it's taken off, the back aluminum seating.
That's correct. So we thought that that would be an item for a service club and/or a booster club to try and do a fundraiser. And maybe they don't do the whole entire grandstand. Maybe they do a portion in the center, but we thought that we would just pull that for that reason.
And that would be something that could be fairly easy accommodated in the future that doesn't
Correct.
impact anything that's already been done.
Correct. Yeah, they would bolt onto the existing structure if someone was able to run with that and create some fundraising for it.
Okay.
Well, these all look good to me.
Thank you.
So we don't have a voting quorum tonight. I guess I'll just kind of ask your opinion. I guess if there's a consensus, as this would move forward to general services, what you think, and I think.
That's what I would think.
Yep. Yeah. Okay. Well, I concur, Bill. You know, we talked about these items in workshop, and, you know, Architects West had presented it to us and discussed it in detail, so I think as far as the members present here, you have a consensus amongst this group moving forward to general services that
Okay.
we're in favor.
Very good, thank you.
Yep.
And when I take this on to council, I'm going to have Steve and John have the presentation that you saw. So it'll sort of frame this ask to them because they'll see it from those gentlemen prior.
Okay. Anything else?
I think that, I think it needs the improvements down there. And I think all the ball players will be happy with it.
Well, and I think, you know, the commitment is to upgrade and refurbish the grandstands, and I think we've got one shot to do this, and let's just do it the right way, and this will preserve the structure there for decades to come, and like you said, it's a historic icon in the community, and
Yes, very good, thank you.
I think it'll be a good thing, so. Let's go ahead and go on to our next item, and that is the relocation of Central Bark Dog Park in Northshire Park. And again, the decision point would have been, should the Parks and Recreation Commission recommend the relocation of Central Bark Dog Park to the east side of Northshire Park near the tennis and pickleball courts. Central Bark was built in 2010 and was the City of Coeur d'Alene's first off-leash dog park. Our partners in this new park were the Kootenai County Dog Park Association and School District 271. The school district allowed us to build the dog park on their property next to Northshire Park, and the CdA provided funding. In 2014, the school district sold the property to Grace Bible Church, who has allowed the dog park to stay on the property with the understanding that the dog park may have to be relocated once a decision had been made on how the property would be developed. The church has decided to move forward with some development plans on their property. So we are seeking approval to relocate Central Bark inside Northshire Park. All the work to relocate the park should be done by staff except the gated entrance. We would install a path if needed, move the benches, and have the double entry gate entrance built by a fencing contractor. 3 of the 5 existing horseshoe pitches would be relocated to the west side of the courts. We have budgeted $10,000 to accomplish all of the relocation. The relocation of Central Bark inside Northshire keeps the dog park within a close proximity to its current location. The site was irrigated turf, mature trees, and fencing already in place, and is a good fit for an underused area of the park. Again, we have a budgeted $10,000 for the fiscal year 2018-2019 for this work. So I see you've got the picture up on the screen, and maybe just kind of give us the highlights, Bill.
This red border area is our existing park. We have what we call pavillionaire and a pavillionaire, which is sort of a lattice structure that sets over the top of a couple of benches. The double entry gate is called a bullpen. If you've been in one of these, that way your dog doesn't get in or out without having some protection. So that's what we've done here. We would take down all this fencing and we would store this fencing. We would repurpose anything that we could in this park. There is a drinking fountain over here. We would end up moving that over here. There's a double check. We've got water supply over here. We can make that happen. The question that I have, and I'll talk with the Dog Park Association some more about this, but whether we really need an asphalt path that would go down here. We might just put concrete pads where the pavilions are, the pavilions, sorry, and that way they don't rut out a spot where their feet might drag and get muddy. And with that, I just think it's a little smaller. This is 1.8. This is 1 acre, so we're down a little bit in size. We would put a maintenance gate between here and there so we can still come in here and mow. This square box is, of course, the bullpen, and we would have to build fencing from here to there, and the rest of the fencing is already in place. We don't see the Horseshoe Association using these pits very much. They usually use Winton. What I do see are some students from the local schools use these quite a bit. So instead of 5, we would end up moving 3 courts, horseshoe pitches over here.
So does that mean you'd be reducing 5 pits to 3?
Correct.
Okay. What would there be any screening, or is there any issues between the courts and
The courts?
the off-leash park
Yeah,
area?
so what I thought to do is we would probably get some site obscuring fabric, like a black sort of, maybe something like you might see what they use for erosion control, something like that, and hog ring that around the perimeter of this, maybe 3 or 4 feet tall. And I think that will help the distraction of the dogs maybe being interested in looking at pickleball.
Okay. The material would allow wind to blow
Sure.
through and all that?
Right.
Okay.
And with that, I always thought this was a pretty easy fix. We always knew in the back of our minds that this was a temporary deal. There was some discussion with the church about us purchasing this property. I had engaged them in that, and ultimately they chose to use the entire parcel. They've been a great partner. We've been there for several years while they made up their mind what they wanted to do and found the funding to do their development. And so, again, in the back of my mind, I always had toyed with this, and now here it is, the day has come, and now we need to act.
Well, you were prepared. Does anybody in the audience wish to speak on this subject? Bob, why don't you come up to the podium and, as usual, give us your name and address, and you've got 5 minutes.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Commissioners, we appreciate it. I'm Bob McDonald, 1407 Silver Beach Road. And I just want to, first of all, express our appreciation for your efforts in this, our behalf and behalf of the dogs. And I haven't told most of the dogs that we're not going to have that park available, but they'll be disappointed when they learn it. But they will be excited to find out that we've found a new location for it. And like Bill said, we were planning on this. I do want to let you know, and I'm sure you're already aware, that that is the most widely used dog park that we have. The surface is particularly acceptable to the dogs. And so we're pleased to find out that the other surface will be retained and maintained in the same fashion that it has been. So anyway, we would encourage you to go ahead and make your recommendation to the General Services Commission. I know I appreciate your support that we've had over the years for dog parks, and they've been widely accepted by the community. So we haven't really thought about whether or not to recommend a paved path in there. Some of the other members use that park more widely than I do. One thing about the grass surface, it does get muddy, and some people appreciate being on the path. Well, the grass surface is a little bit muddy, so. I don't know, we haven't really talked about this. I know it isn't just a surprise, but we're disappointed that the day has come. I don't know exactly what day that's gonna be. It sounds like it may be off into the future a little bit yet, but we're probably not gonna lose much time of having a dog park available. And maybe there's someone else in the Park and Rec, or not the Park and Rec, but the Kootenai County Dog Park Association, and we have some patrons as well as Kootenai County Dog Park Association members here. So do you have anyone else like to speak to this?
Yeah, come on up.
Thank you. My name is Terry Tritton, lifetime resident here in Coeur d'Alene. I just wanted to express my thanks for looking into this matter and that you've found another location for it, because like Bob said, it's highly used, and us dog owners have fewer and fewer places to take our pets. So I do want to express my appreciation. The paved path that goes into the park, my wife and I would think may be a good thing to have, just because of the high traffic that we're going to have there. And you know, the grassy area is great, but it could become a muddy mess fairly easily. I know you mentioned concrete walkways and that, but more of a path might be appreciated by some of the pet owners. So I think that's about it. I do appreciate your time and efforts in this.
Great,
Thank
thank you. Bill, with a path, whether it's paved or kind of met national park standards, would it have some benefit for accessibility
Absolutely.
and use of the park?
And so, as I said, I budgeted money for this. I just didn't know, and it's great to hear from everybody how they feel about that. So when we did the park before, the existing park, our street department helped us out with that. So I'll reach out to Tim Martin and his staff and see what they can do for us again, because that's probably $5 or $6 grand of asphalt, and that's not, so, you know, they do it labor-free, but whether they have the time or not. So I've got to reach out to them and see if we can get that done soon, because the plants will be closing down here in the next 40-some-odd days or more.
Hard to think we're at that point already in the
Yeah.
season, huh?
Yeah.
I think it's a good idea, and take it to general services.
Good, thank you.
I
Do you have
agree
any
with-
thoughts?
I agree with Ron.
Okay.
And you. And Bill.
Well, Bill, you have consensus.
thank you.
With approval of going ahead and relocating it here within Northshire Park. I think it's a great use of resources and assets. So both these items we discussed tonight will go to general services. And when will that meeting be?
Next Monday, yeah,
And that's at 4 o'clock
No,
right here.
yeah, noon.
at
Oh, it's
noon?
noon, I'm sorry, that's right. General services is noon, at
Yeah,
Public Works is 4
general
o'clock.
services
I
at noon
apologize.
in this
Yeah.
room here.
Okay.
Yeah.
So that meeting's noon Monday right here in the community room in the library.
Yep.
So,
Thank you.
okay, any other comments? Then
Enjoy
I'll-
the rest of summer.
Then I'm just going to make a couple of quick announcements then. Our next Park and Rec workshop will be Tuesday, September 4th, 11:30 a.m. at the conference room at Caruso's Deli here in Spokane, or not in Spokane, in Coeur d'Alene. And then our next regular Park and Rec meeting will be Monday, September 17th, 5:30 right here in the library community room. So with that,
And hopefully, I'll have an MOU for you to look at your next workshop with the state parks to continue their maintenance around the Rutledge Trailhead out on that end of town where the Centennial Trail is.
okay,
Okay.
good. Well,
Move we adjourn.
Second?
Only one left to second,
I'll second
so all in favor?
Aye.
We are adjourned. Thank you, everybody, and we'll see you next month.